Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shades, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown. Jay, how's it going, my guy?
Going good, man. Team USA hoist up the gold as expected. Not gonna pump our chest out about that one too crazy. WNBA basketball should be back in approximately 3 days from us recording. Two
2 days,
two or three.
2 days. Yeah.
So that's dope. My girl Satu Sabali sounds like she might be back on the floor for Dallas. Stay tuned for that episode when we do kind of break down some of the happenings in the WNBA.
Yeah.
As things kind of ramp back up towards the postseason. So I'm looking forward to that. And TV, are you looking forward to the summer training camp videos? It's about that time that the Chris Brickleys of the world and stuff come out of hiding one more time to give us some more summertime content.
Hey man, we're used to having this content in July almost, but because of the Olympics, of course, you got the Olympic stuff going on. They saw it summer league before this, but now we have like a 1 month period of all these trading videos.
Yeah.
We might see, we might get a rare clip of Ben Simmons shooting 5 threes in a row. Who knows? But we're in that point in the offseason. This is like this is the true lull of the offseason.
For real.
This is the true lull. But it's not as long as previous years. That's all I'm going to say. It's not as long. And we got this stuff going on. Of course, we're going to go into season previews in a couple of weeks now. We have this, we're going to start going to season previews in September, Jay.
Yeah, it's coming a lot closer. Look, man, I realized that when we were getting like 2K courtside reports, like what felt like every other day, it made me realize how close to the actual season we are. And now that I'm putting it all in perspective, dude, we've got a lot of preview content to kind of like start assessing, because this season it's going to be opening tip off before you know it.
Right, like it's crazy that how quick it's all gonna turn around, especially because we got the WNBA playoffs coming soon, and then basically right when WNBA season ends, we're gonna be right into NBA basketball. So it's gonna be a crazy hectic couple months, but you know where you're gonna find all this content over here on the Hit Your Free Throws podcast. But we still have an episode to go through today. Of course, we got Olympic talk, we got the top 10 shooting guards and small forwards in the league, we got the draft and the quiz, all that good stuff. It's gonna be a great episode. But before we get into that, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual socials at TV on Basketball, at routinejumper/knockdownj. Those links can be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws pod, remember to follow us for the daily content on TikTok and Instagram. We got the clips, we got the Filter Fridays, we got the NBA news. We have all that stuff over there on those pages, so please go check it out. In terms of YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. Also, check out the shorts. We've been uploading more shorts as of late. And if you're listening on any of the podcast networks, Spotify or Apple, just continue to show your support in any way possible. Subscribe, leave a review. We do appreciate all of your guys' support. Jay, are you ready to get into this?
Yeah, we got a pretty dense episode. Nothing too crazy, but just like some real think piece level stuff going on here.
100%. And we're going to start off with the Olympics because, and honestly, more important, Team USA, because they, after basically steamrolling throughout their entire tournament, these last 2 games were just pure cinema for Team USA. Let's start off in the semifinals. Firstly, France upset Germany. I wasn't expecting that, but they ended up upsetting Germany. And Germany didn't even get a medal this year. They didn't even end up getting a medal. But, Jay, quick thoughts on USA versus Serbia. Serbia was up by 17, 18 points at one point, but USA comes storming back in the fourth quarter. They pick up the win. Steph Curry leading the way with 36 points. Jay, that was probably one of the greatest games I've ever watched.
Yeah, big game for Steph Curry. It was one of those things where it was looking like the ghost of Christmas past for LeBron, with freaking Nikola Jokic stomping around, just giving him another dose of, why he's considered one of the best, if not the best player in the NBA right now. This is another reason. Let me start with Jokic real quick, just because I know we're going to be talking a lot about Team USA. But Jokic with Team Serbia, just was on a different level. Also, Bogdanovic was kind of in a mode, bro.
Oh no, he was like the Patty. You know how Patty Mills of the last Olympics was going absolutely nuts. This was the Bogdanovic. I'm surprised he didn't make all FIBA or All Olympic first team or whatever. He was phenomenal this run.
Yeah, he definitely had a good run throughout this overall the Olympics, even starting back to the early exhibition games. He's played relatively well the entire time, and he was having himself a game to the point that he even did the Melo 3 to the dome, and Melo was in the stands and not very fond of that. And I think that's one of those things where I think it really, I'm not gonna lie, Serbia did something that I don't think we saw really out of any other team that felt realistic, and that's genuinely pushed Team USA through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, no, they
Like,
had this game won in the first 3 quarters. I thought
yeah.
they had like full control.
Yeah, this was one of the first times. Of course, everybody's gonna look back to like the South Sudan game and like little goofy stuff like that. But like realistically, talking about the idea of like Team USA being pushed throughout the quarter, throughout what I mean, what's that 36 or what? Let's say not maybe that's a little too far. Let's say about 30 minutes of it,
Yeah.
because I mean it wasn't 40-minute games
Yeah,
now,
40
right?
minute
So
game. Yeah.
let's say about 30 minutes, maybe 32 minutes of the game, you were actually sweating if you were going for Team USA, and then the switch flipped. I mean, I'll let you get deeper into like, the Curry performance itself, but this is the stuff that separates, Team USA from other nations when we talk about the talent that we bring every single time that we step on the floor in this kind of setting. Like, this is
Yeah.
what separates, is the Steph Currys of the world just need to turn it on, and a game that looks like it's kind of slipping away ends up completely doing like a crazy 180.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, look, I know Laker fans had freaking nightmares watching this game with Nikola Jokic because he was just in one of those modes where you don't know whether to double team him or not, because it's either he gets a bucket over any single player on that Team USA team, or if you
Mhm.
throw a double at him. Freaking Serbia was like 51% from three in the first half. Like, they could not miss a shot, whether they were fading right, fading left. They were hitting everything, and a lot of that had to do with Bogdan Bogdanovic. But
Yeah.
still, Team USA came up huge. Shout out to Joel Embiid, who had a pretty trash run coming into this game. Was
Mhm.
like kept him alive in that third quarter. He had like 8 straight points over there. LeBron James doing his thing. He had a triple double. Kevin Durant finally showed up after only hitting one field goal in the first 3 quarters. And then Steph Curry. We're gonna talk about him more, because going into this gold medal game, we know the discussions are going around this. France, favorable whistle, but they finally got hot at the right time.
Mhm.
And in this type of game, when Wemby scores 26 points, you would think like this might be the only way that France has a chance. And they were in it for like what, 3 quarters and maybe like 7 minutes.
Mhm.
So it's like they were right in this game. But then, sir, Steph Curry happened again. After coming off a 36-point performance in the last game, he comes in here and torches France in the fourth quarter, finishes with 26, hits 8 threes, but 4 coming in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was some of the most like ridiculous shots I've ever seen. And he literally made the whole like USA go, is this what it feels like to be a Warriors fan? Like, it had the whole nation shaken.
Right.
Like, Jays, what was like when you were watching like what was unfolding? Like, how did you feel about how did you feel from like your vantage point?
I mean, personally, I thought it was special to be able to watch KD, LeBron James, and Steph Curry specifically really play at a high level in what we know very clearly is going to be their last Olympics run. Definitely as a group, but yeah, I think even individually, I think this is the last time that we're going to see any of these three on a FIBA level stage moving forward. So I think to go out with a bang, I mean, all we needed was Mike Breen, and we would have really had this thing set off in terms of really encapsulating the moment, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's one of those situations where when you look at the way this team put things together this entire summer, um, with everybody completely understanding that USA was going to be the favorites and getting the best out of just about every nation they played this year,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
give or take 1 or 2 games, I think it was huge that they were able to finish strong the way they did. And I think specifically with Steph in the way he closed the game against France, being able to overcome the French whistle felt like its own kind of like mini victory. Like, to be honest with you, because like the France favorable whistle TV, we've actually mentioned this like what, 2 podcasts in a row, I think, in terms of like France kind of like having some questionable situations around the way that they've been kind of getting through games lately.
Yeah.
And for them to kind of overcome that in its own right was huge. But then to do so and really put the final nail in the coffin in the game, that like once they kind of took over in the final 4 minutes, it felt like Team USA could not miss.
Right.
It just, like I said, I feel like it kind of culminates what was gonna be like the real end of an era for like, the FIBA circuit when it comes to Team USA. Like, I don't know when the next time our team will be this talented again, for real.
Yeah, no, this felt like the ultimate. This felt like Last Dance sort of vibes, man.
Yes, coup de grace type stuff, like send off
Exactly.
to send off type stuff.
Yeah, especially with the way that Katie and Steph were interacting, like that iconic like shot where Steph and LeBron were both doing the night
Yeah.
celebration, like all that stuff coming together, man. It felt like a culmination of a story, and the fact that we got to end this story on what Steph Curry does best. Let's be completely honest, and that's crush all your hopes and dreams in 2 minutes,
Right.
just by his game-breaking ability of shooting the 3 ball.
Yeah.
Just absolutely crazy. Team USA comes out with the win. I mean, a lot of things came out of this. Of course, people like absolutely like loving Steph Curry again. People like, saying, oh, this is going to be the last time we see these 3 guys together. Apparently a huge rise in popularity for Tyrese Halliburton, who did absolutely nothing this Olympic run, but people love him because he's like, got an A+ on a group project.
Yeah.
like that.
Let me ask you a
Yeah,
little
go.
bit more on the negative side, but we're actually gonna kind of like try to see how we can spin this. But from your vantage point, what were your thoughts on the Jason Tatum DMPs?
Oh yeah, that was a talking point.
Mm,
My stance hasn't changed since like the first time we saw the Jason Tatum DNP, and that is Kerr loves to rely on his veterans. 1,
mm,
2. This is why like these type of scenarios are why I believe that Team USA needs like a few more Derek Whites, a few more those type of players
mm,
who are able to kind of not take shots away from anyone else, but can hit a shot if possible, but
mm,
can like excel in a role where they can do a little bit of the dirty work, because you have like too much of the same sort of player on the
mm,
same team. And like, because if you think about it, KD, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, like there's just too much of a logjam there. And when you have
mm,
Steve Kerr, who's already going to lean more on the veterans, who Kevin Durant and LeBron James have been incredible all Olympics long, along with Steph Curry, like not everyone's going to play. And this is where you kind of want like, I mean, you would want everyone to play. Like, I mean, like in my opinion, there was no reason that Jason Tatum shouldn't have gotten like should have gone more Derek White in that game, because man, Derek White
mm,
was awful in the gold medal game. But
mm.
it's just a case of just too many guys, man. Too many guys that you're just gonna have a few guys just like kind of chilling on the bench like a top 5 MVP candidate in Jason Tatum. But bro, I mean, like just like Anthony Edwards said, the elder statesman kind of held it down for us throughout this entire Olympic run, and that's how they were able to end it.
I mean, I think I relatively agree with you, but I think the reason why I ask you the question is because I got a really different viewpoint from the Jeff Teague podcast, 520 podcast, where
Yeah,
he referred to it as kind of like a detriment for Jason Tatum, not necessarily him directly, but in terms of his future with Team USA. And he kind of believes that this might affect, things down the line if they try to give Jason Tatum, who would probably be considered an elder statesman by 2028, as a
yeah,
guy who might not pick up the phone for Team USA in 2028, considering his experience this go around. And something that he brought up specifically was like the idea that Derek White, as you mentioned beforehand, specifically, and even like, let's go back to the Serbia game, like got more tick than Jason Tatum. And you look at a Jason Tatum, right? He's coming off a championship, same as Derek White, of course. But Jason Tatum went into this FIBA run and played probably the least he's played since Lord knows what, early high school, maybe
Yeah.
earlier than that for him in terms of being able to actively participate on a roster that's playing with some kind of real meaning. And he's the only guy this year that made first team All NBA and didn't see the floor really in FIBA play, right? Who the
Yeah.
other guys that came in? Shea, what's it? Shea, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, and then I believe like Luca
Yeah.
was the entire first team.
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum kind of was like there for the ride. And specifically in that Serbia game, you're looking at a guy in Nikola Jokic who's like top one, if based on our calculations, but top five definitely, regardless of anybody's individual bias. And Jason Tatum was in that class this year and didn't even kind of get a shot to compete in that kind of
Yeah.
setting, which I think was a little bit detrimental. But something else that I thought was really interesting that Jeff Teague brought up is Steve Kerr accidentally just unleashed a dynasty on the NBA. And what the way Jeff Teague described it was he said, so first you guys didn't call Jaylen Brown and you picked Derek White over him. So he's going to be on a revenge tour. And then you put Jason Tatum in a situation where amongst the rest of the first team All NBA guys, he probably got the least tick of anybody in FIBA play. So he's going to come back with something to prove. And of course, you instill the certain confidence in a Derek White, in a Drew Holiday, who both are, gold medalists as well. So his take on it also was that, like, thanks to Team USA, we might have inadvertently built a dynasty in Boston because like these guys are going to play with a different fervor just by like, a bunch of different motivation from this offseason. And I'm kind of interested to see how that goes because I think Boston should have a little bit of fire under them. I think people are still a little, I think people still believe that the championship they recently won is a bit questionable considering the past, specifically through the Eastern Conference. And I think people are still wondering, even now, whether or not Jason Tatum is like a real top 7, top 8 caliber guy in the league. Another guy at the small forward position that genuinely can take the torch from
Right.
a LeBron James, from a Kevin Durant. And I think this FIBA run is only reinforcing that thought for people that believe that he's not ready, which is something that I think is going to really start to play. Like, I think it's going to factor in a lot more. They say when a superstar player gets that first championship, it takes the monkey off their back. LeBron James said this when he won the first championship with Miami. I
Yeah.
wonder if this creates a new aura for Jason Tatum in a way that makes him kind of just go ape shit. I really think this might be one of those things where he goes in the next year and he really puts like Air Force energy onto the floor next year. Like, I'm intrigued to see the Celtics next year. I'm more interested to watch them this year than I have been in a while.
Yeah. Honestly, after this whole run, I hope the first person to talk to Jason Tatum is Joe Mazzulla. Because honestly, like, if he just goes and tells him, like, you won gold, congrats, but they didn't trust you. They didn't believe in you the way that we do. They don't even see you like that. Let's prove them wrong next year. And the year after. And the year after. Like you said,
Right.
a potential dynasty in the works. The only thing really stopping the Celtics is money. That's literally the only thing.
Right.
And apparently that's not stopping them either. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he goes there. Let us know what you guys think down below. It feels like that, and also the Steph Curry rankings. Like, I mean, like, we don't have to go too much into it because we have to, like, we kind of already set our piece on like where he is as a top 5, like as a top point guard in the league, how he is as a all-time point guard. I know I had him last year in my top 10, but a lot of good storylines coming out of here. But also, man, it was just great to see kind of like the elder statesmen, as like I said, Anthony Edwards called them, kind of like go out on a swan song on like the perfect way that they know how.
Yeah, facts.
100%. Great job for Team USA. Congrats to Team France, by the way, who kind of struggled in the earlier rounds but made all the way to the silver medal game. And also shout out to Serbia for defeating Germany. Nikola Jokic, another masterclass alongside Bogdan Bogdanovic. And also Micic. Micic was great that game as well. They were able to get the bronze medal. But Jay, we're going to move on to the next topic, though. And we are now going back into the top 10s. We got top 10 shooting guards today. and we got top 10 small forwards. How hard was this list to make for you?
Shooting guards was easy, but I think it was just more so about narrowing down the names. Small forward was a bit harder in terms of the order, but I think some of the staple guys, name value wise, kind of like dominate a good portion of the list, which kind of helped in terms of like formulating it. Both lists were kind of intriguing. It's going to be interesting to see because um unlike the point guard rankings, there's also a lot more. We talked about this off pod a little bit or off camera a little bit. Is there's a lot more interpretation as to where a position lies for a specific player. Um, Once you go up the positional spectrum, like point guard is kind of straightforward, right? But two guard and small forward specifically, there's a lot of scalability there. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see where we both land in terms of who even qualifies for both of these lists.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting because I mentioned this to Jay as we were making this list. It's up to interpretation. If
Mm,
I when I was doing my point guard rankings, I was assuming that Kyrie was in the list, and he was the first guy off of my top 10. That kind of just tells you how deep the point guard position is in the NBA, by the way. But um, in terms of shooting guards and small forwards, again, they're both wing positions at the end of the day, and it's kind of like where do you have each? A lot of these guys have started in both positions, to be completely honest. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see where we're going to place them and also like what the rankings are. For me, I think shooting guard was definitely a bit more of an interesting discussion,
mm.
and especially like you said, you have like the stable to small forward and everything. But it's gonna be interesting to go. We're gonna do it like we did last week. Jay's gonna list his first five. I'm gonna list our first five and kind of just go through that, and then we're gonna go do our next five and same thing with the small forwards. So Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you now. From 10 to 6, who do you have at the shooting guard position?
Okay, from 10 to 6, I have Malik Monk at 10, Anthony Simons at 9, Jalen Suggs at 8, Zach LaVine at 7, and Desmond Bain at 6.
Interesting. Interesting. Actually, can you go through that list for me again?
Malik Monk at 10, Anthony Simons at 9, Jalen Suggs at 8, Zach LaVine at 7, and then Desmond Bain at 6.
Interesting. Okay, so this could be interesting to see like where we place our players as well. So I feel like not a lot of people have seen this from last year, but also I'm not overrating my guy. I have RJ Barrett at number 10. RJ Barrett.
Okay.
Jalen Green at number 9.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
I'm not off the Bradley Beal train fully yet. I have him at number 8.
Okay.
Zach
I'm
LaVine
not.
at 7.
Okay.
And I have Mikal Bridges at 6.
Oh, Mikal Bridges is a 2 for you.
He's a 2.
Interesting.
He's a 2 for me, yeah.
Excuse me. Okay. I'm assuming this because positionally it looks like the Knicks are probably gonna have to go Jalen Brunson, Mikal, OG Anunoby, Julius, and
And
then
Mitch
Mitch
Rob.
Rob.
Yeah, also
Okay.
he also spent a lot of time there in Phoenix too. So I'm kind of like he's like majority shooting guard in my head. So I'm gonna keep him at shooting guard.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah, no,
fair. His name's gonna come up later when we do small forward rankings from me, but I think it's interesting to count where he might end up being more featured for the Knicks this year. It'll be interesting to see if he kind of does get more burn at 2 guard.
yeah. But I know like one of the talking points we're gonna have with my list especially, it's because we had this conversation about this guy a lot this year, Jalen Green.
Yeah.
That's a good have. I mean, like I think that he's like one of the most like explosive players in the league, and I think
Yeah.
he's kind of showing more of his true potential, like playing alongside Alperen Şengün in that second half of the year. I think that maybe it's not going to be to that level at the start of next year, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot better version of Jalen Green going forward.
TV, I think you have to take even what you saw, but not just what you saw, but even what you're saying right now with a grain of salt, because you have to remember that a lot of Jalen Green's thriving in that second half of the season came while Alperen Şengün was out.
Yeah,
He thrived significantly during the time frame where there wasn't somebody like an Alperen Şengün operating the paint, and they played more through him in a way that they weren't playing when Alperen was kind of the main, hub, so to speak, on offense. So I think Jalen Green still has a significant upside, right? Obviously, as an
yeah,
upside player. I mean, as a young player that still has like Zach LaVine-esque comparisons coming back to his draft days,
yeah,
and I still agree with that kind of upside. I also see the inconsistencies in his development over the last couple of seasons. And specifically, the one that showed up to me was, I told you this a lot throughout the season. I thought the biggest acquisition of last summer was Fred Van Vliet. And it wasn't because of the actual star value that he could bring to the floor in terms of trying to, raise wins and win totals and things like that. No, for me, it was establishing a level of continuity on the floor where Fred Van Vliet's IQ and his attention to detail on both sides of the floor made it where the Houston Rockets, specifically Ime Udoka, were able to identify, okay, how do these guys stick in the league? Who fits and who doesn't? And one of the guys that for a majority of the season looked very out of place was Jalen Green. It makes me wonder, and it's been the conversation a lot so far this summer, very under the radar, is the conversations around him being back on the trade block again because of maybe the inability for Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun to thrive on the same team, considering their play styles are kind of polar opposites.
Yeah.
So I do wonder about Jalen Green's development moving forward, especially if he can be on a team where he has more of a green light. A la, let's go back to the Mikal Bridges trade that was going to be a thing eons, many, many moons ago, right?
Yeah.
Where he was going to, where Jalen Green might have ended up being in Brooklyn. That seemed like a very interesting way to reevaluate his value at the shooting guard position. But as part of this Houston Rockets team specifically, and what I've seen in the ups and downs of his development, still a very inefficient player, struggles to finish around the rim, which is kind of interesting
Yeah.
considering one of his best qualities is his athleticism around the
Yeah.
rim. And one of the biggest things that I think is just kind of standing out is like, I don't know how he fits next to other really good players. And so that's why I
Yeah.
kind of have him further down the list where like I like a Malik Monk more than him. I like an Austin Reeves more than him. An interesting name that I had in my top 10 that we maybe can get into a little bit is Anthony Simons, a guy who I think
Yeah.
outside of Portland fans and Orlando Magic fans, if you've
Yeah.
been paying attention to the trade block enough, not too many people talk about how good Anthony Simons has been
Very
so far
smooth.
in his tenure
Very
during the
smooth.
league.
He's a
Yeah.
very smooth player. Like his jump shot a lot. Honestly, funnily enough, like you can kind of fit like Zach LaVine, Jalen Green, and kind of Anthony Simons all in that same sort of mold.
Interestingly enough,
Explosive,
yeah.
like explosive guys who developing three ball. I mean, all of them are getting better at the three ball. And I think Anthony Simons is becoming like close to elite at that, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and just being able to like, especially like with Green and Simons being one of those like combo guards, like not maybe like tall enough to be a two, but also not a great playmaker enough to be a one. So it's kind of like in that weird in between.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I see kind of like Jalen Green as someone like compared to them as more of a, how would you say that? The way I like to call these guys are like kind of game breakers in this league. Kind of like sort of these like game breaker type players where you have him on the court, he can kind of like just turn the game around with his ability going like his ability to attack the rim, like when he's like going off and he's like hitting the three ball. I think like his game is like more suited to being like a top option on a team compared to Anthony Simons and all that. But and I think like I've seen like enough of that in the second half of the season to kind of put him right there at the edge of the top 10. But I understand, Malik Monk, he was the guy who was honestly like number 11 for me right here on this list. Anthony Simons, yeah, like kind of in that same conversation, but yeah, very interesting. Very interesting that we both have Zach LaVine this high too. I know, I'm
Yeah.
not the Bulls fan, but we both have a number 7.
I was going to ask you about your thoughts on that, considering he's a guy that I think for a lot of people might slide when they compile this list, considering that the last year and a half has not treated Zach relatively well, not just in terms of the off the court antics, in terms of potentially getting out of Chicago, but when he was on the floor, he wasn't playing relatively well either, which kind of puts you in a position where when you look at the injury history that he's very quickly compiling and pair
Yeah,
that with
true.
the fact that he has a play style that although he is a really good shooter, he is a slasher first. He's a slasher and driver first. He is kind of just recently started to expand his three-point shooting game to the point that he's become more of a threat out there. But we know Zach LaVine's primary style is downhill, slashing back cuts, finishing around the rim, being one of the best dunkers in the NBA, one of the best finishing shooting guards in the league. Do you feel like by the end of the 2024-2025 season that Zach LaVine being this high at 7 is going to be considered too high? Or do you think that we're probably still going to be justified by the end of it if we get to see him play on the floor, whether it's next to this really young Bulls team or on a different roster? Like, do you still have confidence in him even with this injury history he's kind of putting together?
I think he's shown us enough in this first few years that he's kind of like, even though he is still uber athletic, he's kind of moved away from that like super attack the basket sort of role, and he's improved in his 3-point shooting. He's like, he has the shot creation ability to still be kind of elite for that position. So yes, he's kind of maybe not outside the top 5, which he's kind of used to, by the way. Like at his best, he's like kind of like a staple in the top 5 for shooting guards in the league. But as of right now, I think that I still have confidence in him, whether he plays for the Bulls or he ends up getting moved, that he's still gonna be like near to like maybe like mid to like in the like in this like 7 to 4 range. I still think in terms of like shooting guards in the league, and I think he's still gonna be a very good player coming back.
So I'm gonna give you a chance to give the RJ Barrett love, because he obviously wasn't on my list. I think my obscure guy for my grouping was probably Jalen Suggs, but for you, RJ Barrett definitely stands out for your top 10.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and when I was considering it for my list, by the way, I had Jalen Suggs as a point guard. So like, yeah, but RJ Barrett, I know it's the same thing what you said about Avery Simmons. No one watches the Raptors because we're kind of buns, by the way. But at the same time, RJ Barrett, as a member of the Toronto Raptors, even like before that, coming from the Knicks, was like averaging like for like ever since he got traded like 22 points a game, over 40% from 3 on like 4 or 5 attempts. He's like, his free throw percentage went down, but I feel like every Raptor has gone. That's free throw percentage gone down ever since he joins the team. But when you compare that, shooting 55% from the field too, like he's becoming a lot more. Well, like he's understanding his role more, and you can see that more with Team Canada as well. He's not going to be the number 1 guy, but when he's like that burly forward going to the rim and like asked to be that number 2 or number 3 option, he's becoming a lot more consistent in that role, improving 3-point shot, improving as a defender. This guy, like, hard to get by the way. This guy's a lot stronger than a lot of people think, but I think he's improved in like a lot of areas of his games. I don't know, he's like elite at anything, but he's darn to be good to very good at a lot of things, and I think that's gonna continue to grow as he has a pretty big role here in Toronto. I'm not going overboard and saying he's like a top 7, top 8 point shooting guard, but I think he's just like right on the edge of the top 10.
I mean, to be honest with you, after thinking it over a little bit, I honestly think you have a fair argument to an extent, though. I mean, I, of course, didn't have him in my top 10, but I think there's some real variability in the shooting guard rankings when you think about the fact that some of the guys that we even would maybe consider in this grouping haven't really had their best showings as of late, right? DeJounte Murray's going back to point guard with New Orleans, so there's of course that. But like, let's think about some of the other guys that are probably going to come into the conversation when you like compare that to an RJ Barrett. Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, Austin Reeves, Cam Thomas. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo is an interesting argument.
Yeah.
In its own right. Is Klay Thompson still a 2 guard? That's a different argument. Yes. I believe he's probably a true 3 now. Yeah. And some would maybe even argument that like he's just like a very undersized stretch 4, but I'm gonna say he's a freaking 3 because that just makes sense. Yeah. But like him, Contavious Caldwell Pope, I don't know if KCP is better than RJ. I think RJ should definitely take the helm on that. But it goes to tell you that the variability, once you get down to like 8 through 14, you can kind of go based on very mixed bag and is very dependent on what you value, right? For example, another guy that I left off this list that I think is kind of like an interesting conversation as to whether he counts as a shooting guard or a small forward is Mr. Team USA himself. Derek White is another one who I think that if we're counting him as a shooting guard, I think you can make the argument. I mean, there's a legitimate argument that can be made when we start talking about like the Zach LaVines and the Bradley Beals of the world, who is a guy who actually ended up leaving off the list more due to injury concerns than anything. He scares me injury wise 10 times more than Zach LaVine does, but there might be some Bulls bias there, but whatever.
Yeah.
But Derek White, I think he has a legitimate case to be ranked over like a Zach LaVine going
Oh,
into
no, yeah,
next
no.
season if that's a guy that you have at shooting guard.
Yeah,
So
okay, yeah,
it's all
exactly.
on variability, like you said before.
Yeah, no, it's again how we interpret it too. Like if I had like Derek White on this list, I would probably have him at like 6, maybe even like
Mm,
bordering on the top 5, to be
right.
completely honest. But again, it depends on like how we interpret the position and all that. That's why it was like interesting to say like we didn't have like a set player per position. I was like, you know what, let's just go with how we feel, and that's the kind of decision we made. But Derek White, like even as a point guard, borderline top 10 point guard too, if you
Yeah.
want to go into the nooks and crannies of it all. But
Right.
yeah, let's move on to the top 5 though, Jay. Throwing it over to you. Who do you have as your top 5 shooting guards in the league?
So for the top five, I have Kyrie Irving at 5, Donovan Mitchell at 4, Jaylen Brown at 3, Devin Booker at 2, and then Ant Edwards at 1.
Okay, there. Okay, yeah. I some of the guys you have on this list are on mine. You're gonna hear them a bit later.
Okay.
But my top 5 shooting guards in the league: C.J. McCollum, Desmond Bane, Spider Mitchell, Devin Booker, and Anthony Edwards.
CJ still top 5 in your book.
This guy, like every year, I feel like he's one of those guys. He's still gonna give you the 21, 22 points, and he's still gonna be uber efficient. I think for that like Pelicans team, which doesn't really have that like consistent guy, mostly because of injuries, by the way. Brandon Ingram and like Zion Williamson missed quite a bit of time this year with injury. I feel like he's just kind of that constant over there in New Orleans, and he's always been like that constant guy at the shooting guard position, elite 3-point shooter, has improved his playmaking game too. I still think CJ McCollum is pretty elite. Like is like still like an elite 2 guard here.
I don't know. I might be underrating CJ McCollum, and he's definitely a guy who might have kind of like breezed over when I was compiling my list. I'll be honest. He maybe is a guy who I consider in like my 8 to 10 range around Jalen Suggs, Anthony Simons, Malik Monk. I think maybe you take CJ over like a Malik Monk. Maybe you take his shot creation over Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons, to me, I think is better because he's been consistent shooting from the field, whether he was playing with Damian Lillard or without Damian Lillard, which goes to show his like scalability. My thing about CJ McCollum is he's a negative defender and has been partially forced to play mainly point guard. So we might have to reevaluate this in a year when we get to see him back in his natural 2 guard position. Because that's another thing that should be factored in. Is CJ has been playing a lot of point guard for New Orleans over these last 2 seasons. So maybe that might be part of the reason why he hasn't looked as good. He also has been very much injury prone in a way that's kind of hurt his productivity. Um, I don't know.
I mean, like,
I'm a
yeah,
little worried about the CJ McCollum thing. Not necessarily like dissing the pick, because I do think that, you know, there's a conversation to be had, but I don't know. I mean, the rest of our list is pretty set though, right? So I mean, CJ
yeah.
McCollum is kind of the only. What do you think CJ McCollum does so well that it makes him better than like a Desmond Bain, for example? Like, I don't know if
Oh,
CJ McCollum's better than
oh no,
Desmond Bain to
no, no,
me.
no. I have bet Desmond Bane over him.
No, but I'm saying like they're that close. Like, are they in the same tier for you, or are they like just that close in terms of the rankings? Because I
Oh no,
don't
I
know
like.
what CJ does so well that he's close to a Desmond Bain to me.
Well, well, for me, he's like one of the best like 3-point shooting like guard in the league. Like on like 8 attempts, over 42% from 3. Um,
Fair.
the way I like group these guys, and to be honest, looking back at my list, the only thing I maybe like change is like maybe Bridges and CJ. I'll have maybe Mikal at number 5 and CJ at number 6. But
Mm,
the way I like view this list is like the top 3 are the top 3. Desmond Bain is kind of like by himself there at number 4. Then you have Bridges, McCollum. Then you have the injured guys and Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal. Then you have like the guys who are kind of like can mix in with a bunch of other guys to like interchange with those spots. But
yeah.
um but yeah, no, I think CJ McCollum is still a very like one of the top shot creators at the 2 guard position. Very consistent. And again, if I had to like just looking back on this list, maybe I would switch him and Mikal
Mm.
for the defense, like for the defense. But besides that, I still think that CJ McCollum is either a top 5 or even just a number 6 shooting guard in the league.
Okay. I mean, I can't, like I said, I can't necessarily argue just because I feel like it's based off interpretation. I also think CJ McCollum is a guy who kind of like flew off my radar. I
Yeah,
think in this conversation of shooting guard, I think mainly because again, he's played a lot of point guard for New Orleans over the last couple of years. And I think I've factored that in so much more in terms of where he positionally slides. We know DeJounte is going to be taking that one spot
yeah,
back over once the season tips off. So it'll be interesting again to see how things work when CJ gets to play back at his natural position, but B has a little less defensive responsibility on the wings in a
yeah.
way that like he never was meant to hold up against some of the best guards defensively. And that was where they had to call upon like a Dyson Daniels or a Herb Jones to kind of take on those responsibilities. But he's still a net negative defender. Having a DeJounte Murray and a Herb Jones or a DeJounte Murray and Trey Murphy the third, like it changes the dynamic for him where maybe he can focus a lot more on putting the ball in the basket and it really opens back up the shot creation that he brings. Hopefully that's the case. I want to see CJ do well, really.
100%. But yeah, the rest of the list is kind of like standard, like you mentioned. Ant,
Fair.
Book, Spida. We mentioned these guys a lot in our top 10 players in the league, even though, like when they're like on the edge. So let us know, so if you want to check those out, we had more discussions about that over there. I think we both had you. I think you had Devin Booker as your number one, right?
And Edwards
Oh
is
yeah,
my
sorry,
number one.
I
Yeah,
answered
yeah.
number one. I think we had the same top three actually. Yeah, except you had
Was
Jalen Brown.
it
You had Jalen.
Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, and Jalen Brown?
Yeah, no, I had Jalen Brown on my small forwards, but yeah, no,
But you have
yeah,
Donovan Mitchell in there
three.
instead,
Yeah, that
right?
number three. At number
Yeah.
three.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if I had Jalen Brown at small forward, we basically would have the same top three.
Got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are our shooting guard ranks. Let us know down below what you guys think. But now it's time to move on to small forward.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, there's definitely like some of the flag bearers are still there of the small forward position, but there's some guys coming for the top pretty soon, especially because a lot of these guys are aging out. A lot of these
Yeah.
guys are going to age out soon, but it's going to be interesting to see where we rank them. Jay, I'm going to throw it back over to you. Who do you have as your from 10 to 6 small forwards in the league?
So in terms of small forwards, my list at the bottom starts with Franz Wagner at 10. Your boy Scotty Barnes is at 9 for me. At 8 is Mikal Bridges. At 7, ironically, another Bulls player, former Bull now, DeMar DeRozan, our guy.
Yeah.
And then at number 6, I have Chris Middleton.
You still have Chris Milton that high.
Yes. I mean, the shot making during the
Interesting.
postseason was elite to me. We can get into it a little deeper after you give your 5, but Chris
Okay.
Middleton to me is still one of the best small forwards in the league. And I love DeMar DeRozan, but this is a two-way sport now in a real type of way. And I still am taking Chris Middleton as a defender easily.
Wow. Okay, because he was the first guy off my list.
Off the
But
list completely?
off the list completely.
One injured year really took you off the bandwagon,
Yeah,
huh?
no, what did you? It's been like a year and a half, and it's like I feel like we haven't got the same sort of like. I mean, yes, you can see the shot making like in this playoffs, but I feel like we like just the injury, especially these last couple of years for Chris Milton. I feel like we had like it's not going to be like the same sort of value get out of him as you had in previous years. But yeah, he's just for me. He's number 11 for me on my list.
Okay. I'm interested to hear your list now that I know he's the first one off. I'll tell you as a caveat, my first guy off the list was Brandon Ingram.
Now he's in my top 10. Okay,
Okay,
so
cool. Okay, then I'm gonna
okay,
let you
check.
go. I'm gonna let you
Okay,
go then.
funnily enough, our first two are the same. Number 10, Franz. Number 9, Scotty.
Okay.
Then I
Cool.
have BI. I
Okay.
have BI. Then I got Jalen Williams.
Oh wow.
Then I got,
That's the guy I put at the 4, and I probably shouldn't have did that
yeah,
because that makes a lot more sense.
yeah, I have Jalen Williams at number 7, and
Wow.
I have the hit your free throws mascot DeMar DeRozan at number 6.
TV, I might have to fix this list on the fly. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. I'm gonna check the depth chart of the Oklahoma City Thunder really quickly because I think that's a great point that you just made, and I might have to adjust my list very briefly.
Yeah, I
He is definitely the 3 for this team. Oh my gosh.
I had him as like yeah, I had him in like as like number 7 just above BI. The two-way
Okay.
ability, the improved shot making, the improved 3-point shot. Jalen Williams is becoming one of the more better all-around wings in the league.
I'm taking Franz off. And I'm putting Jalen Williams at 8 over Mikal.
Mikal, okay, got you.
Yeah. So my revamped list, because I'm not bumping DeMar DeRozan now. I'm sorry. That's a little egregious. Putting him at 7 was already hard.
Yeah.
But so my new list looks like Scotty Barnes at 10, Mikal Bridges at 9, Jalen Williams at 8, DeMar DeRozan at 7. I'm still keeping Chris Middleton at 6. I'm sorry. I gotta keep him at 6 for right now.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I respect it. I don't think, like, again, me putting Chris Middleton at 11 doesn't say that he's still like a near elite small forward in this league.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're not like you're not knocking him by putting him at 11. You're factoring in injury history. Like, I understand where you're coming from, because Chris Middleton, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, has had a lot of nagging injuries that have kind of put him out a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, a month and some change.
Too. It's been not like last season in particular, but the 2 seasons prior to that, it put him out at a very precarious time.
Yeah, I definitely understand the injury concerns there, and it's something to keep in mind. I think this small forwards list, the only reason why I don't think I factored in injuries as much is because I think our top 5 is going to be made up of a lot of guys where we use the caveat of, but when they're healthy, it's a totally different ball game. And you're laughing because I think we have the exact same top 5 in some capacity. In some capacity, we probably have the same grouping of 5, or at least 4 out of our 5 guys are probably the same. And it probably comes with that kind of capacity for, I would say, probably 3 of the 5, maybe 4 of the 5, which is another reason why I don't think I doxed Chris Middleton too much for the injury concern aspect of it, because it's kind of like, if I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give Chris Middleton, who's been a 1B, if not definitely a great secondary, leading option. I say 1B because he's definitely the primary shot creator, like shot generator in terms of perimeter scoring, outside of obviously Damian Lillard. But I'm talking about on the wing for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Middleton, to me, is just still a very elite level shot maker, shot taker, plays on both sides of the ball. And he is kind of like a linchpin for the Milwaukee Bucks in a way that I think is like very special for a basketball team from the wing position, for a guy who doesn't require a lot of touches to be effective. And the dude just shows up in big moments. I mean, we were going crazy over that series against Indiana with the big time shots that he was hitting before obviously Tyrese Halliburton finished the job. But like, Chris Middleton's shot making while being injured even showed that, like, he's just on a different level when you need to call his name at the end of games, right? So I'm still going to keep him within my top 10 for sure. People can maybe make the argument that 6 might be too high, but for me, he's still got to crack my top 10 until he just completely kind of falls off the wagon.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's like different reasons you can have like some of these guys above him, you can have some of these guys below him, especially because of how consistent he has been in like the 2020s, like late 2010s, like 2020s for the Milwaukee Bucks when he's been on the floor. So I respect it. I respect him being there in just border in the top 5 for sure. But Jay, we got to go with our top 5, and we mentioned we have kind of the same 5 guys.
I think so.
Who do you have as your top 5 though?
So it makes it a little bit easier because 2 of these guys are no longer on the same team, so it makes it a little bit more straightforward.
Right.
So I have Paul George at 5, Jimmy Butler at 4, LeBron James at 3, Kawhi Leonard at 2, and then Jason Tatum at 1.
Okay.
We must be very different in terms of our order.
We are pretty different in terms of order.
Okay,
so
I'm interested.
Number 5, PG.
Okay, same.
Number 4, Jimmy.
Okay, same.
Number 3, Kawhi.
I can't be mad at it.
Number 2, Jaylen Brown. I have Jaylen Brown.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I put Jason Tatum in my power forward. You're gonna see.
That's right. Yeah.
In next week's, I have Jaylen Brown number 2, and I still got the King running the small forward division. I have LeBron James at number 1.
Fair.
You mentioned injuries, and we have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Jimmy Butler on this list.
I mean,
Yeah,
LeBron counts too. I mean, LeBron
LeBron,
counts in the same. I mean, like I said it before, to preference it, our top five, at least four of the five guys. It's ironic that the only guy that falls out of that five group is a Boston Celtic, regardless of if it's Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. The only guy who's not a part of this category of saying, but when he's healthy though, are the Celtics guys we got in this grouping. But
Yeah.
other than that, all of these other guys, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, that grouping, when healthy, definitely still qualify as a group of the most elite players in the game.
Right.
It's just that little caveat just carries so much weight behind it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I don't blame you for having LeBron James as number one. Obviously, the Olympics kind of, help boost that, even though I would make the argument that the reason why I have LeBron James at three, for example, kind of similarly to Kawhi Leonard to a lesser degree, but Kawhi Leonard, I think his regular season productivity is like, I mean, they're both MVP caliber. But if they're 2 and 3 for me, but I feel like it's more of like a tier. It's not really like I have one over the other type of thing, because their regular season productivity is very high. Their postseason productivity, when healthy, has been really high. Your biggest worry is their capabilities over the course of 82 games.
Yes.
And I do fear that the biggest thing for me, at least during the regular season, in terms of what I've seen when both healthy, is the Clippers have acknowledged that Kawhi Leonard is their number one option. For the Lakers, they have tried to position themselves to play through Anthony Davis.
They've been wanting to do this since 2019.
Exactly.
And look who's still at the head of the team. It's still LeBron at age 40.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I have them more as in a tier. If you told me you had LeBron James over Kawhi Leonard, I would totally be fine with that. I've always been a net negative on Kawhi Leonard from an injury perspective. We also have to go back to our initial top 10 list. I had Kawhi Leonard over LeBron James back during that time frame as well, I believe. So I'm also just trying to remain consistent with my overall rankings. But I think at the end of the day, though, like, I mean, this tier of guys, like this group of guys, is just like a staple of our league in terms of the elder statesmen of guys that are going to be elite. And have been considered elite for a long time, but also guys that, like, I think, like, if they get injured, they're derailing your season.
Yeah.
Because, like, they just carry so much weight in terms of the influence on really both sides of the ball, but definitely on offense in terms of these groups.
100%. And I'm going to give my little piece on Jaylen Brown here, because we're not going to really talk about him in the next episode, at least, because Jay had him in the shooting guards, and then I have Jason Tatum as power forward. But man, Jaylen Brown showed his two-way ability, has been showing his two-way ability every season, but especially in these playoffs passing by. Elite offensively, elite defensively. He's showed us more than he's like the next coming of Kawhi, more than probably anyone else in the league has shown. Where he has, like, he can show the ability to take on your best perimeter guy, and he did that guarding Luka, guarding Kyrie, and at long stretches of period in the final series, but then also still giving you like 24, 25 points per game on efficient shooting throughout the entire playoff run. I mean, there's a reason why this guy won Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP. The efficiency on the offensive end, and still taking on the hardest assignment on the defensive end. Jaylen Brown, man, I think a lot of people have denied for so long, but he is like a borderline top 10 player in this league.
I mean, you mentioned it in terms of you having him at the top, in the top four small forwards. I had him top 3 for shooting guards. So I mean, it just goes to tell you, like, he's an elite player on both sides of the ball. I think when you talk about being able to rise to the occasion, let's even go back to the NBA Finals series up against the Golden State Warriors. Easily their most, we said it back then when we were evaluating the series, easily the most consistent Boston Celtic of anybody throughout that entire series. Jaylen Brown was definitely the most consistent throughout this entire postseason run up to the championship, which of course played into him winning conference and finals MVPs. I think the biggest thing for Jaylen Brown now is just being able to truly assert himself as a number one option, which is obviously an interesting storyline to kind of play around with, considering the construction of the Boston Celtics currently. It'll be kind of interesting to see how things progress now that the quote unquote monkey is off the back, not just for the Celtics organization, but specifically for these two guys in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who many kind of argued around the lines of these two guys not being able to win a championship next to each other. Now they've done it. So the question now is, where do both of these guys build from here? And that's going to be something that we kind of have to keep a real tabs on, because there is going to at least be another season or two of continuing to try to build as part of this duo. But I think there's a real world where we do need to start kind of wonder, not even to push the narrative, but I think to get a better understanding of where both of these guys truly rank in the hierarchy of like the next generation of best player in the world conversations. Because like Jokic is already plus 30, right? Giannis is, I mean, look, he's already a part of a Milwaukee team that's aging, and he's one of the younger players of the group, but Giannis is no spring chicken necessarily either, right? LeBron, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. There's a short leash line. There's a short lifeline on some of the guys that we've considered elite for so long. But I don't think anybody's just going to hand Jason Tatum or hand Jaylen Brown the baton and say, yes, you're part of this next generation just so easily. And I also don't think this championship has clarified it for a lot of people. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys move forward.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's really interesting too, because I think we both had Jason Tatum in our top 10 list, and now Jaylen Brown like going to bordering on the top 10, and we still yet to kind of put them in that rare era as kind of like the Lukas and like the Jokic's and all that. So it's gonna be interesting to see how, like you said, over the next couple of years, how like everything does shape out. But all we do know is that this Celtics team has just like is elite everywhere. And we already talked about Derek White earlier, Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards in the league. Like this team, if they like continue to like stay together these next couple of years, it's only themselves that are stopping them from winning this championship.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that this Team USA beef thing is going to be only the start of like what fuels the fire for this Boston team. But I think a lot of the doubt from people who believe that maybe this championship they recently won maybe wasn't as, hard to earn as we've seen from previous champions. There's going to be a lot of fuel to the fire for this Boston Celtics team that is pretty much bringing everybody back pretty straightforward, gets to run this thing back, and aside from bad injury luck, has a real chance to kind of build on this. We have to remember they won this championship basically without Kristaps Porzingis. So being able to feature him more in the offense, being able to feature him more over the course of time as a more prominent figure on the roster, it gives them another gear to go to that we didn't even really get to see the full potential of last season.
100%. I mean, we're gonna say the same thing going into next season as we said going into last season. They have the best like starting six in this league, so it's going to be like really just like, it's going to be interesting to see like how everything falls into place. But yeah, we got these guys in the top 5. Of course, we still got LeBron as a staple. We talked about Kawhi, Jimmy, and PG, the freaking elder statesman, still running the small forward division. But let us know down below what you guys think. Who do you have in your top 10? Do you agree? You disagree? Or some guys that were missing? Let us know down below. Jay, you ready to head to the next topic?
Yeah, what I mean, we got our interesting spin on the draft this time around, huh?
100%. It is time for the weekly draft. And this time, we're going to do something different. We haven't done this type of thing before, but we're in August, kind of a dead time in the NBA, but it doesn't mean that it's a dead time in terms of birthdays. We are going to be trying to draft the best team possible with NBA players born in August.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about potential draft ideas, I looked at this list and Jay, this group of guys is elite.
Yeah, August is one of them months, man, where like I mean, if you're born in August, you might be a hooper. I don't know. This is a little nuts, man.
It's kind of nuts looking at like all these players. We're gonna like draft a lot of the top ones like very shortly, but man, I didn't realize like how many great players play in August. So we're gonna have some good teams coming out of this. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. But you know how these drafts go. Jay gets the first pick, I get the next two, and we run things serpentine style. So Jay, out of this stacked month of birthdays, who are you gonna have with your number 1 overall pick?
I'm gonna go with the bean, man. Give me Kobe Bryant first. We're gonna put him at shooting guard. Let's go with Kobe Bryant first.
Okay, Kobe Bryant. Yeah, he was definitely gonna be either one or two on this list. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah.
He was gonna be drafted here, so that is a damn good choice. For myself, I kind of just gotta go with the next two best guys, and it's funny because these top three guys that we're gonna be drafting all are Los Angeles Laker legends.
Yeah.
So for these next two, give me Magic Johnson and give me the walking cheat code Will Chamberlain.
Yeah. The walking cheat code might even be an understatement, to be honest with you.
Honestly, bro,
Jeez.
I just read a stat earlier this week that Will Chamberlain was 10 inches taller than the average height of the NBA at the time.
Yeah, see, it's stuff like that that's just like, come on, man. We're out here making 2K my players like in the freaking 60s. Like, this is a joke.
Right.
But I'm gonna try my best to compete with that the best I can. I'm gonna go with David Robinson at my center position, and I have to go. And it might be a little easy or early for this guy, but I have to go with the Hit Your Free Throws podcast mascot. Give me DeMar DeRozan. I'm gonna put him at the. I'm gonna put him at the 3 in this situation.
Yeah, I was really hoping he was gonna last this next one because it was gonna fit absolutely perfectly. But you know what? That's fine too. That's a good pickup. Luckily for me, I still have some options here. Kind of tough for wings, not gonna lie, in this category. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with the easy choice at number one here. I'm gonna go. Sorry, at my third pick. I'm gonna go with James Harden.
Yeah,
Of
makes
course,
sense.
especially if I'm gonna go with the prime version, I'm gonna go with James Harden. And then, do I want to go big? Do I want to go small? That's the interest. That's what's gonna be interesting about these two. I'm gonna go with someone who had probably one of the best primes on this list. Give me DeMarcus Cousins. I'm putting him in at the 4.
Yeah, Prime Boogie, I was praying he'd make it this far because that's just like too elite to like pass
Right.
up, like him just being that good. Man, James falling is kind of sick though. That's the price of taking DeMar DeRozan, right? But
Yeah.
I
Hey,
mean, it's
look.
totally okay.
Yeah, I was gonna choose him at the next one anyway. So one of us could have DeMar.
So we're just gonna be hyper athletic, man. Give me my favorite, well, my second favorite player in the league right now. Give me Ja Morant at the 1,
Yes.
and then at the 4. Oh my goodness, who do I want for the 4? That is like, um, let me. The 4 position is kind of janky, but it's like, you know what? I'm gonna pay ode to my brother's birthday, and I'm also gonna pay ode to this podcast. Bump it. Let's put Chris Middleton, who was born on August 12th. Shout out to you, Jared. Born on August 12th. Let's just put Chris Mid at the freaking 4, man. Forget it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it.
That's completely fair too. Chris Middleton on the list. I like that choice for sure. And at my 3, I mean, like, do you have to? Do you have one more pick? You have another? Oh, which are your last 2 picks, right?
No, those were my last two. Those were my
Got you,
last two.
got you.
I'll tell you who just barely missed my list after we share our starting 5.
Yeah. This is tough because I'm down to 2 people for my 3 position, and it's either I go current, one of the best, or I don't know if I want to disrespect the legend or not
It,
because he might not make the list.
it
This is tough.
definitely depends.
Bro, screw it. I'm gonna go current. I'm gonna get Anthony Edwards at the 3. Let me get
Wait,
Anthony Edwards.
AE is, oh my God, AE is in, oh. TV, I didn't scroll through the birthdays enough, man. He's at 74.
Yeah,
He's at 74 on this list. I didn't scroll through
yeah.
enough.
AE.
Oh. For some reason, I thought when you were talking younger, old, I thought you were going between like Mikal Bridges and like Michael Redd or something.
Nah.
Oh, I was too optimistic. Dang. Shout out to you
August
for
was.
scrolling further through this list. We're using bornglorious.com if you guys want to check this stuff out. Anthony Edwards is freaking 74th. Pete Maravich is like 80th on this list. Like, this list goes pretty deep. to the point that they also include like WNBA players. Aja Wilson, shout out to you. Asia
Brianna
Wilson.
Stewart. Brianna
Kelsey
Stewart was.
Plum is on the list. Skylar Diggins Smith is on the list. Like this is a very informative website in terms of giving you the birthdays, but not very good at ranking their players. That's for sure. Big Cass from WWE is in this list, and he's like on the first page. So hey man, cite your sources, kids. That's all I'm saying. Cite your sources. But I think that's our 5. Wow, I think your 5 is definitely better than mine. Shout out to your researcher, Jesus.
Yeah, no, I was surprised because I was just like I just clicked through the list and I'm like, wait, hold up, 74.
74 is crazy, dude. Like that's insane
like,
to me.
Yeah, no, I gotta go with him. But man, this was a definitely fun draft. Who knows? We might honestly end up doing this for each month of the year. That might be kind of like as we go into the months, we might end up doing that. But man, Anthony Edwards at number 74 on this list. That's kind of funny. But yeah, Jay, let's go through our lineups. The best August lineup that you could come up with.
Man, I don't know if it's my best, but it's a lineup. Here we go. John Morant is going to be at my 1 for my all August NBA squad. We're going to go with John Morant at the 1, Kobe Bryant at the 2, DeMar DeRozan at the 3, Chris Middleton at the 4, and David Robinson at the 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a damn good lineup, not going to lie.
It's a good lineup, TV, but read your lineup for the listeners real quick, just to get it out the way.
At the 1, Magic Johnson.
Kill.
At the 2, James Harden.
Kill.
3, Anthony Edwards.
Oh.
Number 4, Boogie Cousins. And at the 5, Will Chamberlain.
Dude, I fumbled the Boogie Cousins pick too so bad. Like, to let James Harden happen, okay, fine. Because you just, okay, fine. But prime Boogie, because you guys have to remember, when we do these drafts, it's the prime version of the player. Prime Boogie, man? And you have Wilt?
Yo, all I gotta say is, poor Chris Middleton, bro.
No, for real.
After you trying to big him up this entire podcast, this guy has to defend DeMarcus Cousins.
Just to get him murdered in the draft. Jesus Christ. In my defense, man, some of the only other guys that were in the picks were like PJ Washington.
Bro, no one took Reggie Miller.
Look, I mean, considering our guard position, I'm not super mad at not taking Reggie Miller. Yeah. But, like, was I supposed to draft Andre Blatch? Like, what's going on here? Now, I will admit, there was a couple of guys that barely, didn't get picked for me that felt a little bit kind of, smoother of transitions. Maybe, a Rashard Lewis would have been a kind of cool pickup.
Chris
Kristaps would have been another really solid one, I think. Mikal Bridges, as I mentioned earlier, I thought was solid. Michael Redd. LaMelo would have been a pretty good one. Robert Parrish might have been decent defensively as a 4 instead of putting Chris Middleton in the freaking basket. If you're a guy who really loves him some black and white basketball, you could get Bob Cousy. You know what I mean?
We talked about Pistol Pete already as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Antoine Walker's on the list. All this has a very good basketball pool when it comes to NBA legends and superstars. So if your kid's born in August, put a basketball in that man's head instantaneously. It might just give him +2 attributes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and also this might be your kid might be in the purple and gold at some point, bro.
No, facts. No, for real though.
Like honestly, the fact our top 3 guys were all freaking Lakers legends. That's kind of wild too. So yeah, but yeah, that's our draft. Let us know down below what you guys think. Of course, I might just make this thing we might just make this thing as an every month thing. And now that we know, now that we have the Edwards pick, you gotta scroll down on this website. We gotta scroll down.
Oh my gosh, dude.
It's crazy, but yeah, let us know who you got winning this draft between us two. Jay, it is now time for the final segment of this draft, and it is time for the quiz. Sorry, for this episode, it's time for the quiz. And Jay, for this quiz, I was in the giving spirit. So in this quiz, I need you to name me the last 10 players to average over 10 assists in a season. So 10 different players.
10 players.
The last 10 guys to do it. So it's the last 10 guys to average 10. Of course, some of these guys have done it multiple times, but I'm talking about like the last 10 like different players to do it.
Okay. That's
So let's
not
see if we.
that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
It's not. I think in the past, lately I've been giving you super hard ones.
They have been
So
kind of difficult. I've liked them though. I've liked them. I'm glad
Yeah.
you haven't like lit up on me because I definitely like the harder ones.
Yeah.
Let's think though. So Trey Young has to be here.
Yeah, second, like, yeah, he was like in like one of the. I think like, he just did this past season as well. So yeah, Trae Young,
Okay. CP,
CP, yep.
Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook, yep, he's on the list.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton, the other guy to do it this year.
Okay. James Harden.
James Harden is on this list as well.
Rondo.
Rondo is on this list. I think he is like the 9th latest guy to do it.
Oh wow, talk about clutching.
Eighth latest guy to do it.
Is like Jason Kidd like too far back?
Too far back, yeah.
Okay, so Steve Nash is probably too far back.
Nope, he isn't. He is.
Oh, he isn't. Oh, okay, great.
He's the 10th guy. He's the 10th guy. The 10th latest guy to do it. Yeah.
Lovely timing.
Yes.
Who's passers? Ricky Rubio didn't.
So you're missing 3 guys. Yeah, you're missing 3 guys.
What like a passers? Man, you don't think about passing as much until you need to think about passing. Oh.
Exactly.
John Wall, maybe?
John Wall, he's on this list as well.
Okay, cool. I mean, come on, one of the best distributors in the league at one point. God.
Yeah, he 10 assists per game 3 times in his career.
Okay.
So you're missing 2 more.
Are these guys that you would associate as passers? Like they would be considered like real like passers, or do you think these are guys that are like kind of like out of left field?
Kind of out of left field. One guy was pretty recent, but you might have forgotten that he got over 10 assists. And this other guy, you probably, I mean, like he's right there with like right on the edge of like the list where he's just like he kind of makes it on. He just makes it on.
Okay. It's good to keep in mind.
The other guy was recent, but you probably don't remember him. Like you probably don't associate him with passing, even though some people say that he's one of the best to ever do it.
Oh dang. Okay.
I feel like he kind of did this. I won't say out of spite, but he's like, look, if I'm gonna be a point guard, I'm gonna be a point guard this year. I don't know if that gives you enough hints.
So he's a guy that normally doesn't play point guard?
Nope.
Okay, so he's kind of in that like James Harden-y type of situation. That's good to keep in mind. Who's it? No. Okay, Brandon Jennings definitely never did. LaMelo Ball?
No, LaMelo.
Okay. Further back, probably. Let's think. Darren Williams?
He
maybe?
is number 9. Yeah, Darren Williams makes it on the list.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, that was
snipe.
like very...
Good snipe.
Okay.
So now you're missing a guy who did it in 2019, 2020.
Okay, so my Gilbert Arenas guess is wrong.
so this is the last guess. So this is like the one guy that you're missing from the list.
2019, 2020, huh? Nah, not Darius Garland. That would have been rookie Darius too. Oh my God, he would have been a killer if he was averaging double digits. God, he's great, but Jesus, rookie DG moving like that. Oh man. Anyway, 2019, 2020. Oh man, I'm like genuinely pooped on this one. Hold on. And it's a guard, right? Like that's kind of like one of the. Oh, okay.
Oh, he's not a guard.
That's an interesting concept. LeBron?
It is LeBron James.
Okay. I was gonna say LeBron or Yoke. I ain't gonna lie. I feel like at that point.
I'm surprised that Yoke hasn't averaged 10 assists per game.
Yeah, right? Is he anywhere close on the list or no?
No, so I think he had like 9.8 a couple years ago.
Yeah, okay. It couldn't make the stat sheet too clean,
Yeah.
obviously, at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because if we were thinking current slash 2019, 2020, the guys that came up to in my mind are LeBron, Yoke, Sabonis, and then probably like,
I mean, those are really the
dang,
guys on the list, right?
that's kind of probably it. 2019, 2020. That's probably it, low key.
Yeah. That's crazy to think that LeBron, like the one season, firstly, the one season where the Lakers had the best role players out there, the season where LeBron was at the point guard, averaging 10 assists per game, they won
Yeah.
a championship. Like,
I mean, it's a
and,
fair note. It's a fair note.
and somehow Rob Pelinka effed it up.
Dude, he's gonna be calling LeBron's phone after this USA run that they just had, just like begging him not to throw a fit. LeBron James has been playing with nothing but all stars all summer long, and then has to come back to the Lakers and realize they didn't make a single move. They didn't make a whole. They didn't make a single move all summer. It's
Except
like,
bringing his kid.
geez.
Except bringing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, did they? Okay, I saw Clutch Points post this, but like they legit didn't sign anybody.
No, they didn't.
Wow.
They did nothing. They only brought in Dalton Connected and LeBron James Jr.
You can't tell me Tyus couldn't have started for this team. But that's a rant for a different day. Lord have mercy. I'm gonna
No.
leave that one alone. But
This man has to go from,
man.
yo, do you see that tweet from D'Angelo Russell? Like someone tweeted at him saying, you know, if given the opportunity, like someone tweeted that if given the opportunity, D'Angelo Russell can hit those shots like Curry. You know that, right? And D'Angelo Russell replied with facts. And then he deleted his tweet right after.
I mean, in 2K My Player, anything is possible. TV. That's how I'm gonna put that one. In 2K My Player, anything is a possibility, dude. But in real life, nah. Let's chill.
This, no,
Curry's
this
still
guy,
different, bro.
he's too different, bro. Like D'Angelo Russell was playing cheerleader at the Olympics. Did you see that video? He was playing cheerleader at the Olympics.
I saw him. If you watch his YouTube channel, he was playing golf with Devin Booker. He's just fanning out right now, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
yeah. And now he's to convince LeBron that it's okay that he's still on the roster after having seen Steph Curry put on the absolute masterclass that he did.
Dude, talk about an ultimate finesse, by the way. The Lakers would have been much better off financially to be able to make moves if D'Lo had just not picked up his option. And as the biggest FU he could possibly have, he just picks it up and makes the whole process that much more difficult. Hey,
And,
man, Lakers are going to be a fun team to watch this year, depending on which type of fun you're looking for.
exactly. And the fact he gets to rub in the faces of LeBron and AD in Paris is wild. And what a crazy, crazy time to be an NBA fan. But yeah, that is the quiz. Let us know down below if there are any other quizzes you want us to do. We're going to try to, of course, mix it up. We have also the games that we've done in the past, and we might bring those back coming into this season. But Jay, we've reached another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to tell these people before we sign out?
We're in WNBA mode, bro. NBA doldrums are in full effect from this point to probably about mid-September. We're still going to have NBA content for you guys, of course. But in terms of NBA news, the Lauri Markkanen deal kind of shut all the real trade conversations down for at least the next couple of weeks. So we're in WNBA mode, which is totally fun considering the fact that we're going to be able to see some real postseason basketball. I have some pretty spicy takes for that WNBA episode, by the way. So that's about a week or two from now. Stay tuned for that because I'm actually pretty excited, and I did some digging, and I feel kind of confident in the hot takes, despite the fact that they might be muy fuego by the time we get there.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah, no,
yeah.
the playoffs are coming pretty soon. We're gonna have the playoff previews following along as the playoffs go along, but also still doing the season previews as well. This is what we're talking about with the mix, man. This is like we have the WNBA, we have the NBA. It's a great time to be a basketball fan, bro. It's a great time. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a great rest of the summer.
No, I agree, man. Like I said beforehand, giving this content out in a lot of different ways. Me and TV might have just stumbled upon another version of some short form content for you guys with this, birthdays concept as well. So something else that we might be able to play with a little bit as well. And yeah, man. I mean, It might be dead in NBA terms in terms of the news, but it's never dead on the Hit Your Free Throws podcast. We'll always have something to talk about.
100%, and you're gonna be able to check this out anywhere. TikTok and Instagram for the short form. You got the YouTube here. You got the podcast. And then of course you got our individual pages. You can be found down below. But yeah, it's been an awesome episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. This is Jay. We're signing out. Peace.